Hello everyone, my name is Scott Jones and I'm your host for this special Canadian Agriculture Literacy Week live event co-presented by Ontario Agri-Food Education and Partners in Research Canada. Before we get started, I'd like to welcome the 340 live stream viewers who are joining us from Alberta, Manitoba, Ontario, and Nova Scotia. Remember that you can tweet your questions using the new hashtag this time, CALW16 throughout this live event. If there's room in your tweets, as always, include your name, school, or city, and we'll give you a shout out. I look forward to getting to some of those questions, but first I'd like to introduce Dr. Romila Verma. She's a research affiliate with the Environmental Sustainability Research Center at Brock University and an instructor in the Department of Geography and the School of the Environment at the University of Toronto. Dr. Verma, thank you so much for joining us today. I'll turn it over to you now so we can hear a bit about yourself and also your very exciting work.
Thank you, Scott. Good morning, everyone. I am so excited to be here and really honored to talk about some subjects that I'm very passionate about. So thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you to the Ontario Agri-Food Education and Partners in Research for organizing this. This is an amazing platform. And also, I would like to say Happy Agricultural Literacy Week to all of you. So, about myself, as Scott already mentioned, I teach in the Department of Geography and School of the Environment at University of Toronto. Some of the courses I teach are environmental science, water, hydrology, climate change. Also, I'm a research affiliate with Brock University. So my research basically focuses on water, the global freshwater crisis that we are seeing all around the world. So the special focus that I put on is towards agriculture. So a little bit of a background about myself. I grew up in India with scarce resources, with a lot of poverty. It's a very highly agricultural country, and it's all around you, right? You see the scarcity all around you. So that had a huge impact growing up in India and trying to figure out why this inequity. What else can we do? So I became sort of a solution seeker. And to that end, I actually am a co-founder of Trans-Africa Pipeline. It is a solution-seeking organization to provide water in the Sahel region of Africa, which is sub-Sahara. And the water crisis is the worst, and especially with the changing climate. So we are a group of people committed towards providing water in that region. And currently I'm working on a website called Water Speaks. So through that website, I hope to connect with our youth. I hope to become a mentor, and I hope to do research, writing, and advocate for water. So I'm currently working on that. Still not there, but as soon as the website is live, I would like to share with all of you. So I'm going to now tell you what I'm going to talk about. Scott, can you see the slides now?
Not yet. Maybe there'll be a bit of a delay here.
Yes. So I'm going to go. So I'm going to talk about agriculture and food security, climate change and agriculture. I'm going to talk about International Year of Pulses, case study of India, and further resources for the students. So what I want to talk about today about agriculture, and the slides will show up shortly. One underlying reason for the agriculture of the future will be lack of water. As I already mentioned, that's my field of study. So what I'm going to show you, just a few seconds, the slides are going to show up. What I want to show you and why I'm talking about agriculture, climate change, and water. So can you see what I'm holding?
Yes, we can. We still can't see the slides yet, though.
Oh yeah, slides will come up. So let me show you this, and I'm already on the slide that I want to talk about, and it'll show up in a few seconds. But can you let me know when it shows up, Scott?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So before that, I want to show you something here, why I talk about water. So if you put all the water that we have available in the sea, lakes, marshes, rivers, bogs, everything, for every moisture that we have into this one glass of water. And you take away 97% of that. And you know what that 97% is? Salt water, seawater. And the reason I talk about fresh water is this is 3% is what we have left. And you can barely see what's left in this glass, right? The rest is seawater. Might as well put a bunch of salt and just keep it aside because it cannot be used as a resource for agriculture, for drinking, for manufacturing, right? We cannot. So this out of this 3%, you take 2% away, and that's, I'm just going to put 2% in this. So literally one drop left. What is that 2%? What does it have? It has glaciers, icebergs, it has groundwater, it has permafrost, right? So those are not easily available, right? You just put that away. So what is left is 1%, and even less than 1% actually, I would say. And out of that 1%, it's easily accessible water in our river system, in our lake system, in our marshes and bogs, less than 1%. So this is it. This is what we have to work with, right? And so easy to get rid of that 1%, because less than 1%, because we have polluted this, we have not taken care of it, we have overused it. So it's a very paradoxical resource, and we need that for agriculture, right? We need water for cultivation. We need good soil. Agriculture is basically art and science of cultivating the soil, growing crops, livestock, raising livestock. It includes the preparation of plant and animal products for people to use and the distribution to markets, right? So what I want to stress, one point that I want to talk about is food production is not only a victim of climate change. So it's not that climate change is going to have adverse impact on our food production, but agriculture is also a culprit in contributing to climate change. So what we have currently is it contributes 25 to 30% of global greenhouse gas emissions is what we are seeing. 25 to 30% is what causes emissions in the agriculture sector that causes climate change. So when we talk about agriculture, its importance since antiquity, when the civilization started developing, whether it's Mesopotamia, whether it's Indus Valley, the Huanghe Valley, the Aztecs, all across the world, when the civilization started happening, it was because of agriculture, domestication, and the nomads when started settling down through developing strong agricultural system, through growing grains and fruits and vegetables, right? Harvesting. These, because of agriculture, the present day generation exists, right? Agriculture is a very, very important factor in where we are in terms of our civilization and growth. So when we talk about agriculture, there's one issue that I want you to think about is food security, right? What is food security? We hear about it all across the border, to be food secure. Are we able to provide our communities, our countries, our people with healthy food, right? As you know, this is one of the basic human right for survival, is to provide humans with food, shelter, clean drinking water, sanitation, right to education, and to live conflict-free, right? Good public health system. These are some of the basic human rights that we all need. And food is one of the most basic human right. Without a good food secure system in any country, the conflict will increase, right? So I'm going to give you a quote by the World Food Summit of 1996. It defined food security as existing when all people at all times have access to sufficient, safe, nutritious food to maintain a healthy and active life. So, for example, I'm sure you see a lot of pictures and photographs of malnourished kids from around the globe, from Africa and Asia. You see this really thin-looking child, and you say, hey, this child is malnourished. But on the flip side of the coin, there is child obesity. Human obesity is at an epidemic proportion. That is also malnutrition, right? So malnutrition does not necessarily mean emaciated, really weak person. It also means obesity. So the underlying factor is, are we providing them with enough nutritious food? Or are we surviving on hamburgers and pop? Right? That is also part of the discussion of food security, which we all have to be a part of. We all have to think about it, that we are providing sufficient, safe, nutritious food to our communities. Scott, can you see the slide?
Not yet. Have you shared them with us?
I have. Can I just quickly, sorry guys, I'm just going to go to the application again and then see if I can. Yeah. So when I hit share, I go to applications and then I am on PowerPoint. Can you see it now?
No, not yet.
So I am on PowerPoint slideshow, so I'm just wondering. Okay, it should show up soon.
Okay. Can you go ahead without the slides for now then? Or?
Yeah, I will. Just let me know as soon as you see this, because there's only one slide that I really want everybody to look at.
Okay.
So then when we talk about agriculture, we obviously, it's within the context of climate change. As you all know, climate is constantly changing. 4.5 billion years of Earth's existence, climate has been changing. It's part of the natural system. And our planet's atmosphere is part of that global system that keeps the temperature of our planet within a habitable range, 15 degrees Celsius, right? But what is happening over the last 200 years or so with industrial revolution? Humans have been altering the composition of atmosphere by burning fossil fuels, including coal, oil, and gas. Right? So just give me 1 second. I am.
Oh, it looks like it's coming now.
It's coming now? Okay, so.
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay,
There we go.
So the next slide is more. So we are on. So when we burn fossil fuel, carbon dioxide is produced, as you all know, and builds up in the atmosphere and creates a warming greenhouse effect. Other greenhouse gases that contribute to this effect are methane produced from livestock and nitrogen from nitrogen-based fertilizers. So this greenhouse then traps energy from the sun and raises the temperature of the earth. So as the temperature rises, it alters the climate of our Earth system. And that becomes then paramount in creating, or trapping carbon dioxide, in creating and altering the agricultural practices. Things like extreme climate events, like extreme floods, drought cycle. We get into these cycles of droughts and flood from around the world. We have cyclones and hurricanes that destroys a large portion of fertile soil, right? As you know, for a good agriculture system, we need fertile soil around the world to generate this fresh produce for high crop yields. We need that soil. And with increasing extreme events and flooding and drought increases desertification. And flooding, it leaches out the top precious fertile soil. So that has a huge impact. right? So in the next slide, it's very interesting. I want to show you how our cloud system works, right? As temperature increases, the oceans evaporates more moisture into the sky. Scott, can you see the next slide?
No, I'm still at the map of the Earth here.
Oh no, okay. Okay. Okay, so what I will do is I will come back to this particular slide at a later time, okay?
Okay.
And then I will continue with other slides then. Okay, so as the energy is trapped and creates warming temperature, it alters the climate of the Earth. And where do these greenhouse gases come from? I have a nice diagram that I wanted to show you, but it can come from air transport, oil production, forest burning, landfills, land transportation, fertilization, crop burning, coal plants, industrial agriculture and processes, coal mining, right? So these are human actions or are anthropogenic actions that creates the warming effect on our planet Earth. So what are the kinds of impacts that will happen on the impacts of climate change that will happen on agriculture? So there are few scenarios that we have seen developing. Climate change can lead to a variety of impacts on agriculture. Some of these effects can be biophysical, ecological, economic, and social. So we also see some positives that can happen out of climate change. So what are these? A shift in climate and agriculture zone towards the poles. So if you think Canada, with one growing season, that is a positive because the growing season, that's what the scientists are finding, can increase from 1 to 2 growing season. So it's going to move up towards the pole. So Canada and Russia and other Nordic countries might be winners in this, right? Changes in production patterns due to higher temperatures. Boost in agriculture productivity due to increased carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So what we are going to see is, changing from one crop to another. If we don't have enough rain, we can't grow enough rice because rice needs a lot of water to sit saturated for weeks before you can harvest it. So moving away from rice, you can grow lentils, you can grow fruits and vegetables, right? So that will change the cropping patterns around the world. Changing precipitation patterns will lead to unavailability of water. So that's something that is going to be bad news for poorer countries, especially in developing countries, because that will increase the impact on farmers who exist on subsistence level, who rely on rainfall to grow their crops. So if the rainfall is not coming, what ends up happening then, right? So you are not able to see anything or witness any cropping yields if the rain does not come. And if you're dependent on rice and cotton, you will have to change, right? You will have to adapt. So those are some of the reasons that will have negative impact on our agriculture system. So talking about agriculture and climate change, I want to mention something about how we can move or what are the positives that we can see. So there are a lot of other things that are happening in the agriculture sector, but I just want to talk about only one thing today. Because this is an International Year of Pulse, I'm going to focus on how increasing productivity in the pulses will have a wonderful impact on sustainable agriculture. Because there are so many other things happening, I don't want to kind of put everything on the table and just kind of talk about pulses. Now, I have some examples, if you can see. Can you see, Scott? Right? I'm
Yes.
showing some examples of pulses. It's taken from Latin word pulse, meaning thick soup. And they are edible seeds of plants in the legume family. So they are part of legume. And look at these, the chickpeas, all kinds of lentils, dried beans, dried peas, right? These are the focus of agriculture around the world. Pulses are actually very rich in fiber and protein. They have high levels of minerals such as iron, zinc, phosphorus, folate, B vitamins. Hugely nutritious and tasty, I must say. And they have low environmental footprint. So you can grow it in arid and semi-arid area. You don't need a lot of water. You don't need the soil condition does not need to be excellent. You can still grow a lot of pulses in these conditions. And another big thing that I like is there's no storage headaches, right? Because it's dried seeds. So what you do is you can transport it all over the world. So for example, I want to make this clear, sugarcane, right? So sugarcane is a highly perishable crop. You produce it, you harvest it, it has to go to the sugar plant right away because it'll start to dry up and then you won't be able to extract enough juices, right? So if you don't have good transportation around sugarcane, the whole entire crop is damaged. So that's very inefficient. Same with fruits and vegetables, right? So there's this whole huge transportation and storage angle to all these crops. But with pulses, with lentils and dried chickpeas, you can just box it, put it in a bag, transport it all around the world, right? So it's easy to grow, it's easy to handle. Scott, still no movement in the...
Oh, no, I'm on the International Year of Pulse slide right now.
Oh, you are. Oh, thank you. Okay. Okay, then I can, okay, wonderful. So now are you on the pulse production slide?
No, I've got a diagram with legumes as the heading.
Okay, wonderful. So the students can see, right? So see what I'm talking about. So as soon as I get into the pulse production slide, can you please let me know so I can show them? Okay. So I don't know if you're aware or not, but Canada is the largest exporter of pulses in the world with a 26%.
We're on the slide now.
Oh, wonderful. 26% share of total exports valued at 1.2 billion. So guys, that's amazing, right? And if you can see the map, Canada map, it tells you where these land areas are. Alberta grows quite a bit, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, parts of Ontario, Quebec, right? So this is where the pulse production is concentrated. So as I had mentioned, it can also be in arid and semi-arid areas. So if you can see right here, all kinds of chickpeas, dried peas, lentils are grown in all these areas here. And being the largest exporter and this International Year of Pulse, I wanted to focus on what an amazing job Canada is doing. And guess what? Where are they sending most of their exports? India. India is the largest producer and consumer of pulse. Nearly 27% of Canada's exports are to India. That's a huge commonality and huge area of growth. So if you're thinking economics, if you're thinking business, if you're thinking international relation, partnership between Canada and India on the pulse export import is going to be huge in future. So if you see at the pie chart on your left side is top pulses producing countries percentage of total 2007. So if you see the green, the piece of pie right here, 25% is produced in India, 7% respectively in China and Canada, 6% of pulse production is in Brazil, then 5% in Myanmar, or the present day Myanmar, but it used to be called Burma, and then 4% in USA, and then I think it's 3% in Ethiopia. And the rest 40% is divvied up between little pieces of pie, maybe Thailand, maybe Mexico, right, from all around the world. Parts of South America has this share of very small slices in this 43%. So this gives you an overview, right, of what is happening in pulse production all around the world. So I just wanted to show you a few more examples of pulse, and this is amazing. I don't know if you guys are a big fan of these pulses and lentils, but I love it. It's my favorite. And being a vegetarian, this is a very healthy vegetarian supplement if you don't have meat in your diet. This is very high in protein, dried chickpeas, right here. So, and I'm just showing you just few varieties that I like. There are hundreds of varieties and species of lentils and legumes and pulses that you can find out according to your taste what you like. So what I want to do now, very briefly, tell you about India, case study of India on being a highly agricultural country. 80% of India's population in some way or the other are engaged with agriculture. So it becomes very important to understand how the system works. So I want to very briefly tell you about a weather system in India. It's called a monsoon season. I'm sure most of you are aware of this monsoon season, very region specific. Scott, can you see the next slide, case study of India?
Yes, I can, yep.
You can? Okay. So if you look at the map of India, it's a peninsula, right? And the Himalayas are at the north, huge towering Himalayas. And just a quick tidbit about Himalayas, it's called the third pole of the world because the ice mass that is concentrated in the Himalayas is called the third pole of the world. So during summertime, March, April, May, the whole subcontinent becomes superheated, 45 degrees Celsius. I remember it being so warm at that time, just praying for rain to come. So the rain does arrive through the cool, moisture-laden trade winds. So this is where the peninsula is super hot, and the ocean is cool and moist. It brings all the moisture to this part of India. I still remember you could set your calendar. You could set the date by what time the monsoon is going to arrive. 31st May in Sri Lanka and tip of India. And then middle of May, it'll move towards north. And then by June, July, it saturates the entire country, right? So when you are dependent on monsoon that much, and what if it fails? It doesn't come. And it's mostly subsistence type of agriculture. Monsoon fails, there's no rain, no agriculture. Your entire country's GDP depends on monsoon, on this delicate weather system. And guess what? It's not arriving on time every year. It is failing. Either it'll arrive early or late or not at all. It's not arriving. So the entire GDP then is tied to the arrival of this weather system. So I want to impress on you how important it is, the weather system, the changing climate for any country, not just India, all of these countries, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Thailand, Myanmar, right? All these countries depend on rainfall. So coming back to pulses, since India is the largest producer and consumer of pulses because of largely vegetarian population, it becomes a very important part of their diet. So it's kind of grown in this arid and semi-arid parts of India. I will now move to the next lecture and next slide, and I want to kind of tie it all together. I've talked about agriculture, its importance, climate change, its importance. I want to give you a big picture, right? I want to tell you two things. Our food production system produces a lot of emissions of three primary greenhouse gases: carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. So one question I want to leave you with, which I'm not going to provide you with any answer, the question is, how do you reduce the carbon footprint of agriculture sector? And the second question I'm going to leave you with is climate change will impact our food system, our weather system, lack of fertile soil, and fresh water. How do you feed the world in this changing climate? 7.2 billion and counting, predicted to be 8, 9, 10 billion by 2050. How do we provide you everyone with healthy and nutritious food? So these two questions I want you to leave with. And I also have some resources for you students. Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada and Pulse Canada, which is actually holding a competition on recipe. So if you have any good recipe idea, please go to their website and send it to them. And I have a reference section at the end. And with that, I'm going to end my presentation. Thank you so much for your patience, and thank you for bearing with a little bit of technical issues. And I'm opening the platform for any questions you may have.
Okay, thanks, Romila. That was great. We certainly covered a lot of ground there, lots of things to take in for our students. I'll get right to the questions, which have been coming in over Twitter. We have one from Ashley in Carmen, Manitoba, and she wants to know how Canada can produce food that reduces greenhouse gas emissions without reducing the quality or quantity of our food.
Yes, very good question. Especially Manitoba is at the forefront of agriculture innovation. So I would suggest reducing carbon footprint is going organic, is looking at ways at how we can reduce our dependence on fertilizers and pesticides, which is having a huge impact in our ecosystem. So if we can reduce that footprint, going organic, going local, what we can produce locally would be a good idea for us to kind of focus on, is what I would suggest. Coming up with innovative solutions like drip irrigation, right? Soil regeneration, mixed cropping. So there are so many things that we can talk about, and leaving the land fallow for certain seasons and trying to produce what we can within the limitations we have.
Okay. Another one here, I know you talked about it quite a bit, but Riverdale CI geography students in Toronto want to know how climate change will specifically affect Canadian farming.
As I mentioned, actually, climate change will have kind of a positive impact, but this is just part of a story with growing seasons, right? So but at the same time, we are also noticing a lot of invasive species that are increasing into our getting into our agriculture system. So that is going to be a huge headache for Canadian farmers. With growing season comes a huge responsibility on how we are moving ahead and how we are kind of not depending on commercial crops. We have to focus on growing crops that sustains our communities, right? So that is one thing that climate change will have a huge impact on. Another thing that IPCC report has predicted is more rainfall in the southern part of Canada, especially southern Ontario. So do we have flood management techniques in place? Do we have programs in place that will protect our cropping system from increasing rainfall? Right, so those are a few key findings from IPCC that I am kind of worried about, is how we can have this in place. So for that, I really think the policies aspect has to be strengthened in Ontario and Canada, right? So we have to have a good, strong policy system and governance system in place. Right, our constitution is dependent on good governance. So this is the time now to show, to mitigate, to adapt to increasing rainfall in southern Ontario and how we are going to deal with it moving forward.
I want to get back to something that you mentioned right at the start of your talk, and that was some of the work that you're doing in Africa. You're working on building a Trans-Africa pipeline. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yes, and guys, I want to tell you, if you want more information, the website is called transafricapipeline.org. So what this project is all about, we are proposing to construct almost an 8,000 long kilometer pipeline based on desalinated water. The reason we are saying desalinated for Sahel region in Africa, and I'll tell you in a bit which countries we are talking about, because the groundwater system is very precious. And what I'm seeing in those parts of the world is now entire reliance on groundwater system. Once you take that water out, it's not going to be replenished because rainfall is greatly reducing in those regions. So Sahel region is basically, if you think about the map of Africa, start from Mauritania on the west coast, Senegal, Mali, Burkina Faso, Nigeria, Chad, um, uh, what's the Eritrea, Djibouti, Ethiopia, right? So these are the band of countries in the Sahel region. So it's just south of the main Sahara region and north of all the middle African countries, right? So this strip of very fragile and very vulnerable land is what is going to have the worst impact in terms of climate change. So setting up a desalination plant in Mauritania and another one on the east coast in Djibouti. We plan to construct this pipeline, 6 pumping stations, and we have all the pre-feasibility studies, and we are already engaged with Mauritania and in the process of basically negotiating, and they're very interested and setting up the pipeline, setting up the entire area with these pipelines. And again, when I talk about desalination, I always say with a word of caution, there's a clause there. Desalination should not be the solution for all the countries around the world. Countries like South Asia can still it's manage and govern their water better. But just in the Sahel region, desalination seems to be the only solution.
Okay. So we got a few questions coming in. It's in particular, what can our students who are listening today do to mitigate the effects, if anything, like on an individual basis? What can we do to help reduce human-induced climate change?
Yes, and that is a wonderful question. It just makes me feel so happy and proud to see students so engaged and passionate about being the change, right? And so all the things that you can do, little things, right? Like supporting locally grown food. And there are a list of things, but there are a few things that I really focus on for students is obviously taking short showers, conserving water, supporting locally grown foods and fruits, vegetables, eating within the season. So if you want to eat mango in winter time, resist, right? Because that's what we have to, because if there's more demand for mango to be available throughout the year, then the chances are the system will try and supply the demand that is being put on agriculture sector. So eat within the season, support local, conserve water, and try new things. Like I talked about International Year of Pulses. You might think, oh, what's this? It looks gross, right? You might think, okay, I don't get this. But try new healthy things. Incorporate that in your life. Try new things. Do not just stick to few things that you eat. That is a huge thing that I think we don't talk about enough, is trying new foods into your dinners and lunches, right? So these are the few things that I will say to students. And of course, things like walking, right? Biking, hiking, these are the things. Just go and understand nature, right? Education is so important. And between grades 9 and 12, one thing that you can focus on is also getting yourself educated, how the system works, right? Once you have that basic foundation, then you can move on to now finding solutions. I'm not saying that you cannot find solutions at this age, but once you have the proper understanding, you can move to the next stage of finding solutions.
Okay. I'd like to get to a couple of questions from Blessed Trinity High School in Grimsby, Ontario. They're joining us right now. So you feel free to wave if you want. They want to know, do you think hurricanes will become a big problem around the world in the near future if we continue polluting the environment? More
Absolutely.
weather.
Yes, and we have seen that. All the research, the IPCC reports are pointing towards that fact, that it'll not only become more frequent, but it'll become more intense, right? Because of the sudden collection of moisture. And I wish, can I take back to the slide that I wasn't able to show them? Is it possible? Do we have time?
Probably not. We just have a few minutes left here.
Okay, guys, these slides are going to be online, and it's, I think, slide number 5 and 6. Just click on this. It shows how the cloud moves in this global system, right, on this planet Earth. It is fascinating. You can see hurricanes developing. You can see cyclones developing. The clouds moving clockwise and anti-clockwise. So it is a good visual. So look at that map. Look at that slide, and you'll get a better understanding of, yes, the intensity will increase and the frequency will increase. Absolutely.
Okay. Another one from Blessed Trinity, and this comes from Ari in particular. How can agriculture be helped in countries that do not have the resources to adapt to climate change?
Wow.
So maybe
amazing. That's good, very good questions. So the question is, it can be tackled from different levels, right? From a governance level, policy level. From individual level, you can actually, there are so many options. You can choose a country, for example, and because I do a lot of research in India, there are so many organizations. You go to their website, you sponsor a village, or just, with few $100s, you can establish a drip irrigation system to support that local village. So there are so many things that you can do on an individual basis to develop individual farmers. Farmer suicide is a reality around the world. Can you imagine the whole concept of farmer starvation? Such an irony. Farmers who produce food are starving. So how can we help them? Again, go online, lots of resources. If you want, I can put it on your website, list of organizations around the world who are helping farmers deal with these climate change issues, deal with desertification, deforestation, soil erosion, lack of water. So on an individual basis, this is one thing that you can do, is go and support the farmers.
Great. It's great to hear that there's so many resources out there for us to take advantage of. Before we sign off here, I'd like to ask you something that I ask all of our guests, and that is, what advice would you have for the students that are listening today if they're interested in perhaps pursuing a career in hydrology or watershed management, the things that you find yourself involved in?
Yes. So, of course, the first thing is to educate yourself. I always tell my students, it's not always about the marks. It's not whether you're getting A's and B's and C's. It's about finding fire in your belly. Do you have that fire that says, I need to do this? It could be music. It could be environment. It could be anything. It could be being a farmer. Find that calling, right? This is the perfect age for you guys to find that calling. What am I interested in? Know yourself. Once you know, okay, I want to be a hydrologist or an environmental scientist. There are so many wonderful universities around Canada. Host of universities. Go to your career counselor, and I don't want to say which program is better than the other because all the programs are very good. So go and see what speaks to you. Hey, hydrology is stronger in this university, but maybe I want to focus in agriculture. So maybe this university is better for agriculture. Go and talk to your career counselor, your guidance people, and they will help you with preparing a package on how to move forward. Volunteer as much as you can in your field, right? If you want to be in the agriculture field, go out in the field, go do landscape designing, do whatever you can during the summer. Utilize your time, create an organization, create a platform. And another thing that I would advise this group, grade 9 to 12, is write as much as you can. Paint, produce music, find creativity through which you can express yourself, and then publish it. Go out, don't just think about it, go out, blog about it, do an art exhibition, do a dance drama, write music, right? So present your ideas to people, communicate about your ideas. And these days we have these wonderful platforms, guys. We have our internet, we have all kinds of system where you can actually put out your ideas. So that is another big thing that I tell my students. This is the time for you to think about innovative ways you can get involved.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Verma. I think, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. I'd like to say thank you to all of our live stream viewers who tuned in and sent us your questions. And of course to you, Dr. Verma, for taking the time to answer those questions and share your expertise and knowledge with us. So I just want to give a quick pitch to some more of those free agriculture and food-related resources that you were mentioning. So you can go to the Ontario Agri-Food Education website at www.oafe.org. As far as future events, we have a full schedule of upcoming PIR live events, which is available at pirweb.org. You can join us on Wednesday, March 9th in particular at 1 p.m. when we'll learn about proteins and take a virtual tour of a Queen's University research lab with Dr. John Allingham. So until then, thank you everyone again. Thank you, Dr. Verma.
Thank you very much.
All right, bye for now.